Hello, what's up guys, Medium Guy here. Welcome to the next video in the video series dedicated to Caddy, and in this specific video we're going to learn about responding statically with our custom responses directly from the Caddy server in order to mock some responses based on our desires from the Caddy back to the client. So if you want to learn more, stick with me. So suppose in situations like you want to respond statically for some requests on some exact paths, or like for example you are doing some maintenance or upgrading your backend services or backend infrastructure and things like that. In these kind of conditions you want to actually respond with your custom data and mock responses, like for example respond with some HTML or respond with some JSON or some simple text directly from your Caddy server without being proxied to anywhere or without using any kind of file servers or anything like that. So good news, because Caddy has a response directive that actually can handle all this, and actually you can use this directive to respond with a simple text or with an HTML with relative content type header, or maybe with a JSON again with its relative content type header. So we're going to see all this, and as you can see right over here I'm in the official documentation page for the response directive, and right over here you can see the syntax in order to make use of this directive. So you can set things like the stats code of the response again based on your use cases. And with having all this in mind, let's move to the VS Code right over here where I've got some configuration files prepared in order to demonstrate this whole process. So as you can see I've got a Docker Compose file, and right over here I've got only one service that is using the Caddy official image with some recent tags, and I've set the response policy in order to set the Docker engine to try to restart my Caddy container by for any reason that my Caddy container has been stopped or anything. So actually as a result the Caddy container will be up and running again. And right over here by using the environment variables and by setting the time zone environment variable, I'm actually able to set the time zone of the container that will be created. And right over here on the port section I'm mapping the port 80 and 443 to exactly the same ports inside the container. So as a result I as the client will be able to make requests to the host machine that will actually have the Caddy container running inside that and use its IP address in order to communicate with these two given ports. And later I'll actually try to configure the Caddy to listen to exactly the same ports. And right over here I've got the volume sections that I'm mapping the Caddy file to this exact address inside the container. So basically the Caddy initially when coming up will look for this exact file in order to initially configure itself with. And lastly I've got the ./data and config directory mapped to /data and /config directory inside the container, and actually by doing this I'm persisting the data and all the configurations that Caddy might create along with the process. So next if I move to the Caddy file right over here on the global section right over here, you can see that I'm turning off the automatic redirect from HTTP to HTTPS, so I'll be able to make requests using the HTTP protocol also. And right over here you can see that I am configuring the Caddy to listen to exact same ports that I defined in the Docker Compose file. So if I move down right over here you can see that I've got a handle directive that is handling /404, and by using the respond I'm actually responding with a simple text and setting the stats code to the 404, which stands for not found. If I move down right over here you can see that I've got another handle directive to /custom header, and actually you can see that I'm adding up a header to the response that will be sent back to the client, and again responding with some static text, but this time with 200 stats code, which stands for OK. Next over here you can see that I've got another handle directive for /JSON, and actually I'm setting the content type to application/JSON and responding with a simple JSON and passing in whatever data that I want to respond statically back to my clients. Again, lastly, right over here, I'm setting the stats code for the responses. And lastly, right over here, I've got another handle block for /HTML, and again, by using the header directive, I'm setting the content type to text/HTML, and again responding with some static HTML back to the client, again setting the stats code to 200. So right now my Caddy file is ready, and I'll actually move to the terminal and I'll hit ls to make sure I'm in the exact same directory that I have all my configuration files. And if I hit docker compose op-d, my Caddy container will be created. And if I say docker compose ps, I can see that my Caddy server is up and running with the exact same ports mapped to the inside of the container. So I'll say docker compose logs-f to follow --tail 100 to grab the latest 100 lines, and right over here I can see that things are looking good, and I'll hit Ctrl+C to exit out of the logs, and by using curl I'll pass localhost, and I'll try to pass the paths that I defined in my Caddy file. So I'll say 404, I'll hit enter, and you can see that I'm responding with the exact same text that I defined right over here in my Caddy file with the exact same stats code as we can see right over here. So again, I'll try to make another request for custom header. I'll hit enter, and you can see that this time my response actually includes my custom header that I configured in my Caddy file also. Again, if I make another request to /JSON, I'll hit enter, and you can see that the exact JSON that I defined in my Caddy file is being returned with the content type header set to application JSON. And lastly, I'll try to make another request to the /HTML. I'll hit enter, and you can see that the content type this time is set to text/HTML with the exact HTML that I defined in my Caddy file. So I hope you get the whole idea, and by following this exact same step, you can actually turn off the reverse proxies to your upstream servers, and by using a simple respond directive, you can actually respond with your custom responses to all your clients' requests. So the good thing is that you can configure all this in your Caddy server, and you don't actually need some external services, some external files to actually handle all this process. So that's all for this video. I hope you learned something new in this one. If you have any questions, any recommendations, of course go ahead and ask me in the comment section down below. If you haven't watched the previous videos, I recommend you give a visit, in which you can learn much more cool features in Caddy, things like IP restrictions, rate limiting, load balancing, and things like that. So if you want, you can find the relevant link to the playlist down in the description section of this video. So lastly, if you found the video useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, which will help grow the channel and motivate me to create more free contents like this. And with that, that's all for this video, and I hope to see you in the next videos.